I thought this video would probably give us a good, satisfying little summary.
Hey,
to that.
It's Will Salatan from The Bulwark. Remember this line from 1984?
Oceania was at war with Eurasia. Oceania had always been at war with Eurasia.
That was Orwell's illustration of how an authoritarian government can rewrite the past. And that's also how this authoritarian government, the one that Donald Trump is building in the United States, is trying to rewrite our past. What I want to show you today is what actually happened this month in the United States and how our government is gaslighting us about what they did. On April 2nd, Trump announced that he would impose tariffs, really big tariffs.
Side note, I cannot believe this shit happened on April 2nd. This feels like it was like 8 months ago.
I know.
Tariffs all over the world. Here's what he told corporate investors on April 4th. He said, "Come build factories in the United States because I'll protect you with tariffs. And those tariffs," he said, "will never change." And in case the investors had any doubt, Trump posted another message later that day. He said the tariffs were, quote, "here to stay." But there was a problem. It turned out that Trump's global trade war was a really bad idea. It was going to crash the economy. So people started bailing out of the stock market and the bond market. And to stop the bleeding, a rumor went around that maybe Trump would pause the tariffs for 90 days. But Trump said, no way. He said he wasn't even considering that idea.
To be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that.
But then he did. On April 9th, a week after he announced the tariffs, he backed off. On Truth Social, he wrote that he was authorizing a 90-day pause so other countries could negotiate new trade deals with the United States. In fact, Trump claimed, contrary to what he'd said 2 days earlier, that he'd been talking about the idea of a pause with his advisors for some time.
But this was something certainly we've been talking about for a period of time, and we decided to pull the trigger.
Now, you might ask, at what point between April 2nd, when he announced the tariffs, and April 9th, when he suspended them, did Trump change his mind? And the answer from our government was he never changed. They said this was the plan all along. That's what the Treasury Secretary.
And I just a moment on this. The think about what that means. They're saying here. It means that they're saying that Trump's plan this entire time was to lie to everybody. Now, I mean, that's like Trump lying to, you know, when you're telling people like you and me, hey, Trump lied. It's like, okay, well, sure. Trump lies about a lot of shit. We're not that flabbergasted or surprised by some of his lies anymore. But for this to be, you know, for this to be so deliberately untruthful to where he is doubling and tripling down with phrases like these tariffs will never change, quote unquote. They are here to stay, quote unquote. You know, I remember for a couple days there, some of the discourse that was coming from people on the left and even some of the media questions that were fielded by Donald Trump or his press secretary, Caroline, you know, they were speaking out of both sides of their mouth. They were saying, well, no, the tariffs are permanent. They are here to stay. Okay, well, like, so does that mean that a country can't do anything to lift the tariff that we've placed upon them? No, they can definitely do something. They just have to come to the table and be willing to negotiate. It's like, well, you're either applying tariffs to protect U.S. manufacturing, and if you want U.S. manufacturing to commit to coming to the U.S., takes a couple of years on average to build a factory, takes about $3 to $4 billion, by the way, as well. You're going to expect companies to do that when you're willing to drop your tariffs after a fucking week. It's like, you can't have it both ways. You can't have permanent protective tariffs that are to bring manufacturing back, and then also drop the tariffs once China fucking decides to engage in a trade war with you. That's why the confidence in the market is just gone. That's why there's no confidence in the United States. It's because we can't even commit to a promise under this fucking buffoon of a president.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
There's no strategy. There's no strategy behind it. That's what that proves as well.
Like, yeah, are we going to operate under the idea that Trump like just lied to everybody and this was the plan all along?
To play 4D chess or whatever they think he's fucking doing?
Yeah, or are we going to operate under the fact that he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing? The entire cabinet doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. And whenever they implemented their tariffs, they actually believe their own bullshit. They think it's actually going to work, and then it backfires on them.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, why is the economy crashing? But it's because of the tariffs.
It's because of the globalists. They were like, exactly. It's because people are being pussies and selling off early.
Right.
It's a free market, for a reason. I don't care what you think of them. You could call them globalists, you could call them pussies, you could call them the thing you really want to call them, which is a slang for Jewish people, a slur for Jewish people. You can say all that and believe it. It doesn't make the fact that the markets are going to respond to your tariffs accordingly any less true. That's just what's going to happen. You put tariffs on that are going to increase scarcity in the United States for certain goods. It's going to increase importation costs. It's going to reduce overall imports because companies are going to try and source other ways or other places, or they're going to, maybe some companies do try to shift to US based production of certain things, of raw materials. How do you factor for the increased cost of American labor as a result? Oh, everything's gonna go up in price because of tariffs. It is such a self-inflicted stupid problem.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like, which is it, MAGA? Like, which is it? Is he a liar, like a sinning piece of shit? Or is he just incapable?
Yeah. Because it's not the art of the deal. He said
by the way, he didn't write that. Somebody else wrote it for him, by the way.
Of course, Trump can't read. How would he be able to write? And he's allegedly, he claimed that he's made a deal with 200 countries, but I can't tell you which ones. It's like, oh my God, dude. It's like, this is my totally real. It's like the fourth grader. This is my totally real girlfriend that lives in Canada. Oh yeah. You can't see her on FaceTime because she doesn't have internet. Yeah. It's real tough.
Uh-huh.
Secretary Scott Bessent told reporters at the White House immediately after Trump hit the pause button.
And we saw the successful negotiating strategy that President Trump implemented a week ago today. And all this was driven by the president's strategy. He and I had a long talk on Sunday, and this was his strategy all along.
You know what's hilarious?
So that's there's an internal contradiction there, because people like Peter Navarro really think that he thought that the tariffs, it seemed to me rather that he actually thought that the tariffs would be permanent, and that he really thinks that the tariffs are going to bring back US manufacturing. So like Peter Navarro is actually dumb enough to believe that this protectionist economy would actually work. These other people don't seem to be convinced of that. They seem to be a little smarter, but they have to cop to admitting the lie. Then there's no good admission. There's nothing good about any of this. And anybody who tries to spin it that way is just being dishonest to themselves, and anybody who listens to them.
About that clip.
I mean, it really tells you how they're in a hard spot right now.
Yeah, it's got to be difficult serving Trump, where he himself is so damn erratic. You gotta, the dear leader can do no wrong, but also, man, I don't know. There's not even any cohesion to what the fuck the dear leader is doing. Like, how can you even stake it? And that's why they have to do these bizarre mental gymnastics to call this random tariff pause after the bond market started to freak out. That's what a lot of people suspect it really was. Is it was the bond markets that caused people like Scott Bessent to be like, Mr. Trump, you gotta not do these. Can we convince you to at least pause them for a while? One of the two. So,
Hi, Scott Bessent. We now know from the Wall Street Journal that Bessent and another guy had to sneak in to see Trump, not a week earlier, like he's telling you, but that day to get Trump to drop the tariffs. In fact, Bessent did that maneuver backstage literally minutes before he came out and gave that speech you just saw about how this was Trump's plan all along. And it wasn't just Bessent. All of Trump's flunkies went on TV and claimed that the pause had been in the works from the beginning. Here's Kevin Hassett, another Trump advisor.
When the president decided to do the pause that we had been talking about all along.
All along. They want you to believe that
they try so hard to convince you too. Like, you wouldn't word that question that way unless you're shoveling out a narrative into people's mouths. You wouldn't say, well, he did this, which was the plan the whole time. Wink, wink, wink. Like, that's so dumb.
Trump
how do people not see through
had
this
a
shit?
brilliant plan to announce the tariffs and then pause them to negotiate trade deals with each country. That's a lie, and I'm going to show you the facts. Let's start with the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. Here she is on CNN on April 3rd, the day after the tariffs were announced.
Is there any chance that the president will pull back on implementing these tariffs before they go into effect this weekend?
The president made it clear yesterday, this is not a negotiation. This is a national emergency.
And then here's what Leavitt said 4 days later on April 7th, according to CNBC.
Spoke to Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, on the phone just a short time ago, and she tells me it is, quote unquote, fake news that the White House is considering a 90-day pause.
And here's Leavitt again at a White House briefing on April 8th.
It's clear the president has gotten the world's attention with these tariffs. Is he considering at all potentially holding off on imposing some of them before the deadline, or maybe later, reversing them because he's having these negotiations and having these good talks with other leaders?
The president was asked and answered this yesterday. He said he's not considering an extension or a delay.
That was the day before Trump did exactly what Leavitt said he wouldn't do. And at her next briefing, after Trump hit the pause button, Leavitt showed up literally with a new script. Here she is reading from it.
And these countries wisely heeded President Trump's warning not to retaliate, and as a result, they were rewarded with a 90-day pause and substantially lower reciprocal tariff rates.
So that's the press secretary. Now let me show you the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. Here he is on April 3rd, the day after Trump announced his tariffs, on what he called Liberation Day.
At what point would the administration consider pulling back on tariffs, especially on those 10% across the board tariffs? Where is the room for negotiation?
I don't think there's any chance that President Trump's going to back off his tariffs.
And then here's Lutnick 3 days later on Face the Nation.
Is that correct, or is the president considering postponing implementation to negotiate?
There is no postponing. They are definitely going to stay in place for days and weeks. That is sort of obvious.
No negotiations, no pause. The tariffs will stay in place for weeks. So what did Lutnick say after Trump reversed himself 3 days later? He claimed that, in fact, Trump had not changed. Lutnick's argument was that even though Trump had dropped all his tariffs from numbers like 50%, 80%, and 99%, all the way down to 10%, that 10% meant that Trump had stood firm.
No, the reciprocal tariffs stay in place. They are 10% across the board on all the countries, right? We paused on any numbers that are above 10%. He announced Liberation Day, and he did not bend.
He did not bend. Right. Did I mention that Lutnick was the other guy who went in with Bessent to get Trump to drop the tariffs? And then he comes out and gives you this story about our stalwart president who did not bend. Lutnick is such a weasel that he can look you in the eye and tell you one thing one day and the exact opposite the next day.
Yes.
Check out what he told CNN on April 3rd.
He is willing to negotiate with these countries right now, or if they decide to
talking, no talking, doing. These countries have abused us and exploited us, as he said yesterday. They need to change their ways.
Let me follow up with you.
Let's see them change their ways. It's going to be a long time. Let's see what they do. Not talking. Okay. Talking is nonsense.
No negotiating. Talking is nonsense. And then here's Lutnick 6 days later, after Trump switched from tariffs to negotiating.
We have so many great countries who want to talk, who are willing to talk, who are finally willing to make what we expect to be a fair deal for America, and we're really excited to talk to them.
One more. Let me show you Trump's trade advisor, Peter Navarro. Here he is on Fox News the day the tariffs were announced.
This is not a negotiation, Jesse. This is a national emergency. So no, this is not a negotiation. It's a national emergency.
And then here he is the next day on CNBC.
How negotiable are these tariffs? What does it take for countries to actually negotiate the tariffs that were just announced yesterday?
Let me make this very clear. This is not a negotiation. This is not that. This is a national emergency.
And then, after Trump announced that, on second thought, it would be a negotiation, here's what Navarro told ABC News.
As you know, earlier this week, he said there would be no pause. What's ultimately the strategy here?
I think you missed it. It wasn't hence the pause. It's trust in Trump. This negotiation went exactly the way we had hoped it would go.
So is this all playing out today as you had anticipated?
Yes, exactly.
Right. It all played out exactly the way Navarro expected. Except for the fact that Navarro, according to the Wall Street Journal, is the guy who didn't want Trump to drop the tariffs. And he got totally blindsided by the other two guys, Bessent and Lutnick. What a bunch of liars. These people, Lutnick, Levitt, Bessent, Navarro, Hassett, they'll say anything. They'll literally pick up a script and read out the new party line. And they'll tell you that the old party line never existed, just like 1984. And that's why they're in these jobs. Trump hired these people precisely because they're willing to lie to you. They're willing to tell you that Oceania has always been at war with Eurasia. So don't tell me that 1984 can't happen here. It's happening now. See you next time.
Very good video. Yeah, broke it down so well. And something I wanted to add to that I saw in another video. I think it was a Rachel Maddow from a couple weeks ago. So apparently the way that Peter Navarro, I don't know if you heard this, CQC, the way that Peter Navarro is somehow got brought up to Trump is because Trump, of course, we've heard reporting that Trump has apparently always thought like tariffs were the way. Trump has just been convinced that tariffs were like the way. And he, of course, has had a history of like hating China for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently in his first term, he was trying to look for I don't know if it was during the campaign or something. I think it was during the campaign. He was trying to find somebody who had an economic policy he could get behind, who was also very like anti-China. And apparently Jared Kushner at the time, the way Kushner tried to find somebody was he went to Amazon Books and he searched for economic books about economic policy that were harsh towards China. And he came across a book called Death by China. And it was about economic policy and how the U.S. should deal with China. So Kushner was, of course, like, this guy's perfect. That book was written by Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro, in this book, He references an economic expert multiple times whose name is Ron Vara. It turns out, CQC, that Ron Vara is an anagram of Peter Navarro's last name, and it's him. So the only source the primary source he referenced for tariff economic policy is literally himself. And he's the one who's been gung-ho about getting Trump to do tariffs. Isn't that so stupid? Isn't that so incredibly
Jesus
stupid?
Fucking Christ.
You can't write shit that stupid. The Good Place couldn't have written something that fucking funny, dude.
God. Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
Yeah, let me Google it real quick.
Fuck, we are so fucked. We are so fucked. We are so fucked.
Yep. Okay, let's see.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so the character, okay, yeah.
Oh my God.
The character Ron Vara appears in Navarro's 2011 book, Death by China, offering dire warnings about Chinese imports. Only the Chinese can turn a leather sofa into an acid bath, a baby crib into a lethal weapon, and a cell phone battery into heart-piercing shrapnel, Vara is quoted as saying. Yep. This is it, man. This is America, baby. Woo!
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So, yeah. I thought you would find that so fascinatingly stupid. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, yet also it's so fascinating.
Oh my God. Fucking how.
It's like an Always Sunny in a Philadelphia episode. It's like, well, Cricket, who did you? It's like, Cricket, who was the one who told you that this would work? Oh, well, of course it was a guy named Ritkek. Wait, Ritkek? What do you mean Ritkek? Oh, is that an anagram of your name? Yeah, he's me. Like, it's literally like an Always Sunny skit. Like, it's crazy. This is more on the tariffs. This is about the allegedly 200 trade deals he's made that he won't tell us about. I wanted to see this is Fox News, of course. I wanted to see their spin on it. Let me move my head here. Where do I want my head? Let's try down here.
Hung up on what you just told me. God damn it.
Dude, I know. You hear that and you go, man, that can't be. Is it really that stupid? Yes, it's that fucking stupid. These people are that goddamn dumb.
President Trump touting that he's made 200 trade deals in a new 2-hour interview with Time magazine ahead of his 100th day in office.
So Rich Edson is live at the White House with the details. Hey, Rich.
Hey, Brian Ainsley, Charlie. Well, this is a wide-ranging interview the president conducted, just dropped from Time magazine. The president claims that he's made 200 trade deals, though we haven't heard anything announced yet. And he's also expressing optimism. He says that these trade deal processes will all finish up in the next 3 to 4 weeks. The president likened these trade deals and his role in it as almost like a store manager. This is what he told Time, quote, "It's a giant, beautiful store, and everybody wants to go shopping there. And on behalf of the American people, I own the store. I set the prices. And I'll say, if you want to shop here, this is what you have to pay." 2 weeks ago, the president paused for 90 days tariffs on goods from across the world coming into the United States. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the administration's had very successful talks with South Korea, that the two countries will be talking technical terms as early next week. The president also says the U.S. and China are actively talking, though Chinese officials say there have been no productive negotiations. Now, this interview touched on a number of different subjects. The reporter asked President Trump if he'd be willing to meet with Iran's supreme leader. Trump said, sure.
Well, that's like, it's, it's like, and not that it's ever dissuaded them from lying in the past, but like, that's a lie that is guaranteed to eventually be where the truth will be revealed.
Like why would China lie about having a conversation with the United States about tariffs?
Right. If they wanted to assure their own people that the trade war was going to come to an end, they would probably disclose with their people, yeah, we're working on a new deal with the United States. But yeah.
Says the two countries are in the middle of negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. They've had a couple of meetings so far. The next session is scheduled for tomorrow. Back to you.
So yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Rich.
Rich, a really long interview with Time Magazine, many of which are some of the questions that they ask. One of the questions about Doge, have a godlike approach to the budget. He goes, what a crazy question. He goes, why are you asking that question? It's about finding fraud and abuse. Why wouldn't you want to find that out? But Trump is he's interviewing with The Atlantic, and he's interviewing with Time Magazine, and no holds barred, 100 days in.
They talked about the first 100 days and talked about a wide variety of issues. But he said, the reporter says, it seems like you're expanding your power as president. He said, I'm not expanding my power. I'm just using it. We are resetting the table. He said, we lost.
Why did her accent change so much? Did you hear that? She code switched into somebody from fucking Appalachia when talking about Trump. What the fuck?
He's interviewing with Time Magazine. And no holds barred, 100 days in.
They talked about the first 100 days and talked about a wide variety of issues. But he said, the reporter says, it seems like you're expanding your power as president. He said, I'm not expanding my power. I'm just using it. We are resetting the table. He said,
yeah, it's like she leaned in more to she seems to have kind of an accent already, but she leaned into it way harder when she started reading a quote from Trump. Why? That's so bizarre.
We lost $2 trillion per year on trade during the last administration. He said, at some point, we have to stop this. And he said, we are earning now 25% more on cars, 25% more on steel and aluminum. He said, we're going to have an explosion upward in the not too distant future.
This is what we call radical transparency. I mean, the guy's willing to talk to absolutely anybody that he doesn't care what you've written about him in the past. And, obviously it creates real problems sometimes for people who work for him. But it's what I think that it's what you expect, what you should expect out of a free country. Mm-hmm. Your leader actually answers questions and talks to people.
He said, this is what I ran on. They asked him about Doge and the courts challenging him.
Why Fox News
and
is not
they said
news.
weakening law firms and
fucking hilarious.
This is hilarious. For them to be like, oh, what is this? What did they say about the transparency? It was such a hilariously North Korean word. Radical transparency. What did he say? God, it was something goofy as fuck. That's so dumb.
Remember, why do people listen to this for news? What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, Fox is definitely they are entertainers before they are journalists. There's no question.
Don't listen to CNN. Listen to PBS. What's wrong with you people?
I know. They don't like just getting the facts. They want to be spoon-fed narrative too.
Yeah, they want it to be biased.
Yeah.
Universities. He said, this is what I campaigned on. I'm using my power as per the election.
So we know this when it comes to the tariff talk. He said, I got 200 deals ready to go. When are you going to announce them? In the next few weeks? Yesterday, 2 days ago, we heard that maybe 18 deals are ready to go. And then we hear in principle some things. South Korea, we saw the Secretary of Treasury yesterday say South Korea is moving really quicker than we thought we might be. We're moving them up in terms of that. But one thing about China, they have stopped buying our pork. So that's going to hurt farmers. So I think pork imports are now facing 172% tariff. So
imports or exports? I think he means imports to China. So, yeah, that's going to hurt U.S. exports.
So China is going to not buy 12,000 metric tons of U.S. pork shipments. So they also have turned around the Boeing planes and said we no longer want them. Your only other choice is Airbus. You have to go order them. Either you need 9 planes or you don't. You got to make them. So President Trump ripped China yesterday and said, are you kidding me? You're actually sending Boeing planes back.
I love how they think
so I get the sense.
It's like the simple thing.
Yeah, they seem to be hell-bent. And I don't, again, for the grifters on the right, it's kind of hard to tell what they really think. But for Trump, I mean, I think Trump is thoroughly convinced that a trade deficit with a country means that we're getting screwed over by that country. And
That's not what that means.
It's not at all true. Yeah, it's not even remotely accurate. It's, there's so many arguments that or so many analogies you could make that it's, I used one recently of I have a pretty good trade deficit with my grocery store. Am I suddenly going to expect that they owe me something in return? It's like, well,
yeah, they don't get it. Some deficits are good and some are bad, but it's like they just don't get that.
Right.
It's a lack of education, a lack of basic economics. It's
right. It's like, should I go to my grocery store and start, like selling something that I produce? First off, no. Exactly. Secondly, if you knowing what I produce, but no way. Firstly, and secondly, like, yeah, no, like I don't want to change the balance of what I spend at the grocery store, but in terms of like, I don't want to suddenly have to buy less from them because of a deficit that exists with them. Like, no, I need to buy what I need to fucking buy. Right. It's just goofy. It's just goofy. And I know that we're talking about countries and not people. But they had an analogy that they used earlier. It's like, if this is a big store, Trump is the one that owns the store, says you're going to, if you want to shop here, you're going to pay this price. Well, that's the thing, Donnie, is that you forget that there's a bunch of other stores on the same street. And they just go, well, then fuck you. I'm just going to go shop over here. That's what's going to happen. And that's going to even happen to to US based companies. Is some of them are just going to be like, you know what? It is cheaper to pay the tariff and to just jack up the price on our customers than it is to move manufacturing to the United States. So some of them are just going to deal with the fucking tariffs until you're gone, dude.
Yeah, true.
That both sides are staring each other down and not budging. And I do know that it looks like China,
not the United States.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They'll start selling to other markets. Yeah.
Is backing off something else. China has quietly rolled back retaliatory tariffs on some U.S. made semiconductors because there's no substitute for the semiconductors that we make. So I get the sense, and the markets are waiting for this, and I watched Brian Moynihan last night, Citibank CEO. Citibank or?
I don't know who he's with.
One
of the big banks.
One of the big banks. And he says, we're just waiting. We're waiting to see what's going to happen with these deals, but especially China. Not even saying what the deals are going to be, but just saying.
Maybe this is the deal. Maybe they say, okay, pork's too expensive, we're not going to buy it, but we need your semiconductors. And we still need that, so we're going to lower the tariffs on that. Maybe this is part of the negotiation.
But do we have to write a check to the farmers?
I was going to say, what does it mean for the fucking farmers that have the pork?
Yeah. Because you know this, all of a sudden you're not able to sell that to the number one market.
Or President Trump finds other countries that need pork and say, don't buy it from X, Y, and Z, buy it from us.
Right. And Spain is now, China's going to go buy it from Spain.
And the sticking point is that, Trump talks about how America is this great, big, giant, beautiful store, and it is, and there's lots of...
Whoever you find to buy the pork, are they going to be able to afford it?
Yeah, are they gonna buy near as much pork as fucking China? Probably not. Oh, I'm sorry, exactly. You're Honduras. You don't have 1.5 billion people that want to eat all this fucking pork? Well, shit.
Also, what's one of the most popular religions in the world?
Judaism? You're referring to pork in relation to what it means with pork?
Yeah. I mean, you got Judaism, but there's other religions too that don't eat pork.
That's true. I couldn't remember any others off the top of my head, but yeah. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, you're not gonna suddenly sell like it's not like you're gonna sell that pork to like Israel instead, right? Like,
right? Yeah.
Not only do they, I'm not going to say everybody in Israel, abstains from eating pork, but I would imagine it's a lot, for one. And two, there even if there is a pork eating population in Israel, they're not going to fucking eat as much as 1.5 billion Chinese people.
Right. God, what is it called? There's an Islam prohibits pork.
Is it Islam? Gotcha. I get Islam prohibiting pork and Hinduism prohibiting beef. I think I get those crisscross sometimes. That's why I just kept my mouth shut for a minute.
Couldn't remember in Islam for some fucking reason.
Great products here, but we're also the biggest customers for a place like China, and they
We're
need
the best
us.
consumers.
Yeah, we're the best consumers. They need us. And the question is, who needs who more? And I think the Trump administration is banking that China ultimately needs us more than we need their plastic
And Donald
stuff.
Trump in the article, he talked about meeting with the CEOs of Walmart and Target and Home Depot, and he said they're for these tariffs. Walmart, they reported their first quarter revenue, or what do you call that? The first quarter, whatever, how much they've made. And they.
Are you fucking shitting me? She doesn't know that?
Yeah.
Oh my word. And honestly, how much money they've made doesn't even properly define it, because profit is going to, be your revenue less your expenses. So I don't know if she's talking about profit or if she's just talking about fucking revenue.
They said.
By the way,
they've not
Islam is
seen-
the second most popular religion in the world.
I believe it. I believe it.
They have, thank you. They have done better and said that they have not lost business because of this. And they said it was either 70 or 80% of all their products in their store are made in America.
This is my analogy, and I think it's brilliant. Before I'm just going to warn you, if you're an archer, you pull the bow back, and what he's doing is with interior. They're drilling. They're starting to drill in the Gulf of America massively. They're starting to open up federal lands massively. At the same time, you have the big, beautiful bill. It's like, two months away. That's going to pull it back even further. And then as you pull in these deals, the easy ones, the Israels, the Vietnams, and then the bigger ones, the India, it goes back. And then when it's about to be let go, it's going to be the off-year elections. And you're going to see everything at once, along with a rate drop in about 9 months. Then all of a sudden that'll loosen up on the housing. So I could see as these deals come in, the deregulation as well, all plowing the ground for a booming economy. How do you feel about my analogy? I think it's brilliant.
I think it's a very strained,
very weird,
strained analogy.
Let go.
But better.
It ends with them letting
You
go.
forgot the bullseye, yeah.
Right. I have to let go. You pull all this back, and then you let it go. But when you're pulling it back, it's a little painful.
But better.
Hold your biceps. You got to hold it back.
Yeah, but better than your misidentifying Moynihan, who's with Bank of America.
Thank you very much.
That is
You're welcome.
Right. Like, yeah, you could continue to use that analogy, and there are all sorts of ways that this could literally, if staying in the analogy, backfire.
What if you miss the target?
Right. You miss the target, or your arrow splinters as you release the bow, and you just get a bunch of little wood chips flying through the air instead of your arrow. I mean, my God, it's such a, and his analogy is again, I think she pointed it out correctly. His analogy only works if you hit the bullseye. If he misses, all that drawing, all that pain will have been for nothing. And I think that that's what you and I are kind of banking on happening, is that he's going to do all this shit, and then by the time midterm elections are rolling around, none of it's going to have any positive. None of it's going to have any positive effect, and it's going to just be it's going to be a bloodbath. The Republicans are just going to get slaughtered in midterms.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to backfire. I know, and I know it's going to happen. I'm just waiting for it at this point.
Yep. Just counting down the days.
I already hear people, like, when you clip this later and put it in a TikTok video, I can already hear people later. How do you know? Well, it's just simple pattern recognition. That's all it is. And then when it does fucking happen, then you're going to be like, oh, that guy was right.
Well, we had 4 years of Trump to go off of too. Like, you and I are in the position of being like, well, we've watched Trump work before, and we know that if he promises something is going to be good and it's not good right now, that you should take zero stock in that promise. You should never just simply take him at his word when he's promising something like that.
You just know it's going to be worse later.
Yeah, because he doesn't know if it's going to be better.
Yeah, he has no clue.